You finished? No, you can do it. We need to start.
Big finish!
Welcome everybody. In true parkrun spirit, we're all here. A really lovely man called Paul Sinton-Hewitt drove to Swindon, came to Lower Shore Farm, and we talked excitedly about this event at the Swindon Festival of Literature, and he said, I'll just relax and I'm sorry, man. I misled you, and I said to Paul, we'll be starting somewhere in front of the house, and of course he's appeared like magic. Yeah, and listen, what we're here to do now is to have a run and a walk around, have some entertainment, which we've had, and then we'll have a run and a walk around the park, and then we'll do some talking and some chatting about Paul's life and about his book and about Parkrun. And for commercial and other obvious reasons, a slight preference to meet the author goes to those people who buy a book or who bought a book. Welcome everybody, welcome to the second event on day one of the 33rd Swindon Festival of Literature. Will you please join me in giving a Swindon Parkrun's Swindon Festival of Literature welcome to guest interviewer and parkrun legend Emma Sperring, but even more importantly, parkrun founder, parkrun legend Paul Sinton-Hewitt. I'm going to give you 2 sentences from his book before I say, Paul, tell us your story. On the very first page in his book, I love this book, he says, when all is said and done, we just want to be happy and healthy. No matter what our circumstances, it all comes down to these 2 simple things, health and happiness. Paul, where did it begin? Who are you? Why are you here?
That's a hell of a way to start. Can you all hear me? Firstly, thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. The reason I wrote a book was because for so long people kept telling me what an incredible thing parkrun was, what impact it has on the world. And when I was growing up in South Africa, around the age of 22, I got into road running, and I discovered half marathons and marathons and so on. And as part of my build-up for a marathon, or in fact for any important race, I would go down to my local club time trial. It would happen on a Saturday morning. It was called the Zoo Lake time trial in Parktown, Johannesburg, and it was run by my club, the Rocky Road Runners. And those were very, very, very special times. Probably the most special times that I had in my early 20s. The whole thing about parkrun starts because I'm going through a bad time in my life. I've had a breakup in a relationship, I've been fired at work, kind of have to reinvent myself. As part of this, I joined a running club. It was called the Stragglers Running Club. It was a drinking club with a running problem. and I loved it for that because I didn't think I was a competitive athlete anymore. I was just, 40, and you think, oh, well, that's fine. But I found very, very quickly that I still had that competitive element. And the first thing I decided to do was to run the Kingston Marathon, which was on my doorstep. And I came third, 4 minutes off my best, but it wasn't on a full set of training. And I knew that if I trained properly and did all the right things, that I could have a good shot at 2:30. So London was the following year, and in the lead up to that I had 2 or 3 months, at least 16 weeks, and I started my preparation, I planned it. If I hit all those markers, I would have the self-belief that I could run a 2.5-hour marathon. Halfway through, I was running with my club, tripped and fell, my dog jumped in front of me, ran, did a somersault, got injured, but didn't really, like most runners, wouldn't accept that the injury was bad. I just kept saying, I'll be fine, and patching myself up and so on. I ended up running the final half marathon, which was the Bath half, but one leg wasn't working at all. And then I was at a loss. A bereavement basically. You have this side of you that's really, really important, where you're meeting your mates and you're socializing, and all of these things that you need in your life to succeed was ripped away. I remember going to the club on a Tuesday night, but not to run, just to be with my friends. And so I would sit and wait for them to come back from their run, and when they came back, they were full of the joys of life. Chit-chat, bouncing off the walls, telling each other what they wanted. And I was just sitting there drinking my beer and slowly feeling more and more dejected. And then I thought, well, I've got to do something. And the normal thought was, well, just go and volunteer. Go back and help other runners. And so there were club events that I could volunteer and so. And I thought, no, hang on a second. I'm going to just do something completely different, something that doesn't exist in this country. And this was the concept of a time trial. And that was it. I decided I would go to a park on a Saturday morning. It was going to be 8 o'clock. I had decided to do Richmond Park first. One friend, a very well-known person, Andrew Lane, he said to me, "This isn't South Africa. 9 o'clock." And then I decided it was a little shorter to get to Bushy Park than it was to get to Richmond Park, and so it's Bushy Park.
Paul can talk about Parkrun forever because it's such a wonderful thing. But because this is a festival of literature and we're more interested in sad stories than happy stories, I'm going to, and I know Emma has questions about Parkrun, I'm just going to, if Paul doesn't mind and you don't mind, steer him back to a large part of this book, the early part, since each of us has a background and a backstory of where we come from and what's brought us here. On page 44, he's in a home for wayward boys and girls, and they try to hang him. What was going on in your life as a child, Paul, if you don't mind telling us that?
Well, everything that's happened in the past has led us to where we are now. And that's probably the same for each one of you. So your life is peppered with good and bad stories. When you're young, you probably don't know the difference between what's good and bad. It's just what it is, and you learn to live with it. So my mother was an international model. My father was a photographer. I was the third of 3 children. I presume my father met my mother when he was photographing her for one of the national newspapers. She won a competition to the best model in South Africa in 1962. I was 2 years old. And part of that was a prize. And the prize was you can go and model in Paris with one of the main fashion houses for 2 years. And my mother decided that that was the thing she wanted to do. My father, as a photographer, difficult to earn a living. I'm sure he had his own stresses. At one point, he checks himself into a psychiatric facility. These days, it would just be some sort of a CBD treatment to help you with anxiety. But he recognizes that he's struggling and he checks himself in. We get placed in a home. I'm 4 years old. I mean, what do I know? So I remember my father putting us in the car, pack a bag, putting us in the car, driving us the 1 mile to where this home is, and delivering us to the home and saying goodbye. I don't remember ever being told why. I don't remember ever being told when it would end. I don't remember. So all I understand is that this is my life. And then later on, we finish with that. My father gets back, but he decides he can't look after us full time, and he puts us in boarding school. So for the rest of my childhood, I'm in boarding school. I go from 6 years old at primary school into boarding school to the age of 12, and then into high school, to the age of 17. And it's in those first 7 years in junior school where I'm placed in a high school boarding school. So it's not supposed to be looking after kids. It's teenagers. And the teenagers have power. They have control and whatever over me. On this particular instance, I'm walking down a corridor. All these dormitories are spreading left and right off the corridor. And as I walk down, one of the older boys in a 2-bed dorm sees me walk past and shouts my name. And he brings me in the room, he closes the door, and he says, stand on that chair. So I climb up on the chair, just like I am now. And behind me is a window that opens, and it opens with a drawstring. And he opens the window, and then he sticks the rope around my neck, and he ties it in a specific knot. And then pulls the chair away, and I get cut from neck to neck. And it's only 6 weeks later that my teacher decides to ask me what's going on. I get marched to the junior school headmaster's office, and he immediately calls the senior school headmaster, and of course all hell breaks loose.
See, what brings us to Parkrun? Why is this man so cheerful despite these things? Emma, mother Parkrunner, what do you want to say?
Now, I have to admit, I haven't read a book for a very long time, but I read Paul's book in a matter of hours. I struggled to put it down. It was so interesting. It's in 3 parts, and it's part 1 that inspired me. I found it so interesting, your early life. And what fascinated me was that running isn't mentioned until page 76. You were interested in outdoor sports before then, but what then led you to running at that stage?
Well, the interesting thing, in South Africa, everybody plays sport. And if you're at school, you're expected to play sport. And I remember feeling dejected, but I started the walk right at the back. And then I started jogging. And I remember finishing that somewhere near the front, running, and thinking, God, this is wonderful.
You did some military service.
I did.
And you'd never travelled outside of South Africa until you finished that. And then you came to the UK. What did you think of us in the UK? What did you think of it?
Well, remember, so a home, then junior school, then high school, then 2 years conscription, military service in the Air Force. So at this point, everything I know is about institutions. And I get the opportunity to come and visit living in Edinburgh. I also wanted to visit Europe. Had no idea what. I mean, I was very immature. I was immature for many years, but at that particular point, incredibly immature. But I thought I knew it all. I arrived in this country. I travelled up to Edinburgh, spent a couple of weeks there, and did meet my grandmother, but she was in an advanced state of dementia at the time, so I don't even think she knew who I was. But I stayed with some cousins, and it was the start of me really understanding the apartheid situation in South Africa. Anyway, I arrive in Edinburgh, and a cousin invites me to play tennis. And so I'm going and playing tennis with him, and it's all going very, very well. And then eventually he gets really aggressive, and he starts slamming the ball into me. And I say, hey, what's going on? You bloody apartheid lover. And that was my first realization that I was on the complete wrong side of life.
Is it true that Bushy Park time trial was short?
Oh, yeah.
We've come to the end of our hour. Paul will stay here at the table. There's some books remaining here on Waterstone's stall. If you want to have a word with Paul or have the book that you've got signed by the Parkrun founder, somebody who helped me found the Swindon Festival of Literature, a book auctioneer, said, never mind if you don't read the book, get it signed by the author, you will make money at it, it will be an inheritance for your children. So I don't think that applies here, you will read the book. Thanks very much everyone for coming. But most of all, a Swindon Festival of Literature and Swindon Parkrun's thanks to Paul Sinton-Hewitt.